likely caused yesterday's fire in Bridgeton.
That fire left one person seriously injured. Bonnie Bishop shows us what's left in the home.
This is all that's left of a lake house here in Bridgeton. Neighbors tell me that the people who bought this house recently just moved in, but now their new home is a total loss.
This is just like a really devastating way to, welcome them into the neighborhood.
Neighbors say they heard a bang and then saw the flames around 3:30 yesterday afternoon.
After we heard the explosion, I ran out and I just saw some of the workers laying down on the ground, they were definitely hurt.
One person critically injured was taken by life flight to Maine Medical Center. 5 other people sustaining minor injuries, including a firefighter.
By their screams, I could tell that something was seriously wrong.
Bella Boodoo lives right next door. She says she called 911.
It was really scary, but it was...
Senator Susan Collins delivers for Maine.
As part of a collaboration between states that recently saw ICE-involved killings, interfaith leaders speaking out against ICE in South Portland this morning.
It comes just 10 days after the deadly shooting of Johann Sebastian Guerrero in Biddeford. Keenan Mills has that story.
Leaders from various faith organizations from around the state speaking on Thursday against the ICE-involved.
Attention shoppers, if you grab that coat, it might make you feel good. Grab that feel-good energy. Want another?
The final session of the 10th annual Major League Passing Camp wrapping up at Coney High School in Augusta with an award ceremony for the top players. The camp, run by some of the most accomplished coaches in the state, is a good way for athletes to get ready for high school training.
The family of missing teenager Stephanie Dameron is asking for volunteers for a ground search on Saturday morning in New Sweden. Dameron, of course, disappeared nearly 2 years ago when she was just 13. She was last seen in September of 2024 walking in the woods near her home. A $15,000 reward is still being offered for Dameron's safe return. Volunteers are asked to meet at the ball field behind North Star Variety on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. But another ex-wife of the ICE officer believed to be involved in the deadly shooting of a Colombian.
Biddeford business is left with a lot of cleanup tonight after the driver of a pickup truck slams into the front of the building. Ronnie Perillo shows us what happened and how one customer says it actually could have been worse.
We got bread! Let's go! We got dicks.
In other news, hey, good morning.
This lonely road, trying to make it home. Doing the by my lonesome pissed off who wants some. I'm fighting for my soul. God, get at your boy. You try to go God, fall back, I go hard. On this lonely road, trying to make it home. Doing the by my lonesome pissed off who wants some. I see them long hard times to come. My life is ill, son. Prepared to kill, son. A paradox of pain, baby, it's real, son. Lonely traveler, ain't trying to value up. If you feeling tough, dog, I walk up all challenges. Ain't got no family, they see this one of me. Might lose your post standing 2 feet in front of me. I'm pissed at the world, but I ain't looking for trouble. I might crack a grin, I ain't looking to hug you. Now think about it. Nobody wants to die. There's rules to this game, son. I'm justified. I'm ready to go, partner. Hey, I'm on the run. The devil's hugging on my horse. That's why I hold a gun. This journey's too long. I'm looking for some answers. So much time stressing. I forget the questions. I fear no man. You don't want no problems. Me, eyes in the back of my head. You better not follow me on this lonely road. Trying to make it home. Doing it by my lonesome pistol. Who wants some? I'm fighting for my soul. God, get at your boy. You're trying to go God for a back. I go hard on this lonely road. Trying to make it home. Doing the by my lonesome pistol. pistol for one
I
son.
see them long hard times to come.
You probably think I'm crazy or got some loose screws, but that's alright though, I'ma do me, you do you. So how you judging me? I'm just trying to survive, and if the time comes, I ain't trying to die. I'm just trying to fly and get a little love, find me a down piece and get a little hug. Hook the car up, hit the bar up, clean the scars up. Hey yo, the stars up. Hey, this is the life of an outlaw. We ain't promised tomorrow, I'm living now, dog. I'm walking through life, but yo, my feet hurt. All my blessings are fair. Man, I rest when I'm dead. Look into my eyes and see the real world. Take a walk with me, have a talk with me. When we end up, God only knows. Strap the noose on tight, you might be alright. On this lonely road, trying to make it home. Doing it by my lonesome pistol for one son. I'm fighting for my soul. God, get at your boy. You try to go, God, fall back. I go hard. On this lonely road, trying to make it home. Doing it by my lonesome pistol for one son.
I see them long hard times to come.
On this lonely road, trying to make it home. Doing it by my lonesome pistol for one son. I'm fighting for my soul. God, get at your boy. You try to go, God, fall back. I go hard. On this lonely road, trying to make it home. Doing it by my lonesome pistol for one son.
I see them long hard times to come.
On this lonely road, trying to make it home. Doing it by my lonesome pistol for one son. I'm fighting for my soul. God, get at your boy. You try to go, God, fall back. I go hard. On this lonely road, trying to make it home. Doing it by my lonesome pistol for one son.
I see them long hard times to come.
Mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2. I need everybody's attention. Welcome to the church against the grass. Let's go. That's right. Welcome to the church against the grass. Woo! American music, choose it. Hennessy and moonshine, baby, just lose it. Heavy beats, banjos, and scratches. The goat on the microphone, phone ashes. Straight flames, you can't match it. Reach for prime at birth, but never past it. Red to tones, baby, it's classic. Spitballs, allow my fans in it. It's a seance, ghostly flow, keep the candles lit. Swoop down like an evangelist. Tone Z, God MC. Now you like a motherfucker, pardon me. I spit balls from the cerebellum with ease while you're putting the textures made from dead trees. I'm the Einstein of rhyme lines. After your cyclical bears, you rewind mine.
I get a cavalcade of accolades, make you have to reactivate yourself and try land after the way I saturate the world with liquid flows that'll drown a whale. Any attempt to get with this is bound to fail. I speak brilliant words that astounding tales. Pummel rappers' heads like pounding hail. Staying on point, headed down the trail. Light up the round table that found the grail. Yes, sir, I rap a lot, stacking up the data props. Yeah, the brother Ran got mastered in his catalog. Chorus and the whole Russian army ain't bad enough. Step your whole game back up, y'all just slack it off. Silver rap like my last name was Maximum. One bite up the rock is hard enough to crack your jaw. Go back like Stacey Lattisaw, drop my classic jaw. Keep the good rappers up that are acting raw.
Lite server. Somebody always, yeah. When I get up, I'm pulling everyone. When I get up, I'm pulling everything with me. I'm pulling everything with me. When I get up, I'm pulling everyone. When I get up, I'm pulling everything with me. When I get up, I'm pulling everyone. Yeah, well, they were probably, we know what they were getting fed in those loops. So they were, as you can see, they were only acting in their best interests and doing what they felt was right. And those who see through the bullshit are probably the ones that you're going to see talking at you in that way. Yeah, we saw a few yesterday, yeah? Incredible. I know. Air hugs. You're probably not listening anyways. You can tell which ones are.
When I was growing up, I was a dreamer, not a realist. They said keep dreaming, son, because you'll never be the illest. Now I'm a mix between a realist and a dreamer. I drive a piece of shit, but I'm still dreaming of a beamer. I sat here long enough, like I was in an abandoned building, walking a tightrope in this world, trying to provide for my children. This world's in recession, bringing me to depression. So meet me at the studio for a 3-hour session to release some aggression. The microphone's a healer, music on my weapons, and I am the killer. If music were drugs, then I'd be the dealer. If my rhymes were sirloins, I'd be the griller, the chiller. And sat here long enough, it's time to lash out. Quit fucking around with all this garbage, time to take the trash out. Walk to the fire, and I get cooled off by rain. And if anybody tries to bring me down, I will get up again and keep rising. Some people say, yeah, they will never be heard. Speak a little louder, I'll never hear your word. It's okay, yeah, they're probably not listening anyway. Yeah.
Do you suspect this is all mRNA vaccines, or do you think it's something which is specific to the COVID and the spike protein production?
It's a very good question. It is when we first analysed the spike protein, there were two things that came up apart from the fact it got all these inserts in. But the main thing was that 80% of it was homologous to human epitopes, which meant it should never even have been considered. Yet it became the gold standard. So I never got to work that. I did not pick then that it would likely to cause cancer. It's interesting. I did not pick that. But I said if you did have a cancer, it would actually fuel it because it causes marked activation, inflammation and microclotting. All of the above will fuel a cancer if you already have it. It won't actually cause it, but it will fuel it. And what has happened with the messenger RNA is that we now know the messenger RNA insert into your DNA, replicate, and people say there's no evidence. Yes, there is. The last paper in the literature is 700 days. They can still find it after the thing. It's just been surpassed at the Boston meeting I was at. That was 3.5 years. They're still able to identify it. So it's there. And the thing about RNA is it inserts at random. You cannot control it.
Any part of the genome, it could just plop in next to a oncosuppressor gene or something.
Yeah, I miss that
That's
draw
exactly
sometimes.
what I believe.
Draw
Explain
it
some
out.
of the things we've seen. Now Now, on the epidemiology front, we have papers, and you can see how important they are because they go out of their way to try and have them withdrawn, taken down, and outrageous.
That's why I call it a southern draw.
And scientific nonsense. These are from the same clowns that basically thought you could model COVID on a computer.
With a mathematical equation that's completely detached from any form of empirical reality.
Exactly. So anyway, they are the same. We've seen it everywhere where they've looked. The people who say it doesn't exist, as it happened actually in the Senate, the head of ASCO said she represented 50,000 doctors and they don't see it. Well, we know why they don't see it, because they don't look and they don't ask, and they're not...
Yeah, we actually did a video on this yesterday. It's the only video I've made where I actually I wasn't acting, I genuinely started laughing halfway through the video. The preposterous replies of Dr. Julie Garlow. Unbelievable, laughable, so someone who was a fellow of this and a fellow of that and the other, and yet she didn't know the most basic schoolgirl biology, or appeared not to know, or maybe I suppose saying it's a very stressful occasion. Let's be gracious to her. She probably just forgot.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, you cannot say when you ask the real poignant question, Ron, tell us what's in the vaccine.
Yeah.
She couldn't answer that. It means anybody with even a O-level understanding of biology should be able to say, well, one of them is an adenovirus one, an AstraZeneca, mainly discontinued, and the vast majority of the others are messenger RNA, for which there's a great deal of controversy as to whether it is any better than anything else. I mean, that's the very minimum answer I would expect anybody to do.
Yeah.
Couldn't even do that.
Yeah, and of course the Johnson & Johnson and the AstraZeneca were very similar vaccines. So basically you notice this turbo cancer, this hyperprogression. So you had two astute clinical observations. The first one about the perturbing of the T cells and the recurrence of dormant cancers that were in remission. And then these other, I hate the term, but hyperprogressive does describe it, doesn't it? And this includes breast, prostate, pancreas, lymphoma, gallbladder, glioma, and bladder cancers. And I personally have come across a few cases, terrible cases of acute myeloid leukemia as well.
Yes.
Terrible cases with death occurring within weeks. And again, is this T cell suppression mechanism, could that also account for the acute leukemias, do you think?
Well, it could, but I strongly suspect there's something else going on as well, especially with the marrow. I mean, I know people who's after the booster, they come out with really aggressive myeloma, and some of them might have had they have a proclivity. Perhaps these people,
regardless of, it still kind of brings about that same kind of
and then something happens in that control, whether it be the T cell suppression, or, and this is the big worry I have, is we had Aldiri, Wafik Aldiri, who's an absolute molecular expert on tumour suppression genes, tell us that the spike protein, if it's inserted anywhere near suppressive gene, it doesn't even have to bind it. It just has to be near. It can interfere with the signalling pathway whereby it suppresses neo-oncogenic events at the molecular level. And of course the T cell can do it at the cellular level. So
right, yeah. So there's two things going on here. There's the T cell suppressing cancers that are already there, and if you normally my cancer, my anti-cancer genes, as it were, are sort of working, all the tumour suppressor genes. Happily, they're suppressing tumours, but if anything's near them in the genetic material, that can alter the function of the tumour suppressor genes, and if the tumour suppressor genes aren't suppressing the tumours can then come, including bone marrow malignancies.
But basically any tumour at any site. When I first saw the Japanese data, I'll be honest with you, I was horrified because I realised that things were far worse than I feared, because the tumours were not confined to those we know are controlled by T-cell suppression. So they weren't just melanomas and lymphomas.
Right.
The entire spectrum. Plus, rare tumours, you don't expect to see. We are now seeing an enormous number of rare tumours.
For example?
Tumours of the, say, endocrine system and carotid,
salivary glands.
Yes, I mean ones which are rare, but they're suddenly coming. They came out on that list. But put it in perspective. There are an enormous number of lung, breast, colorectal, pancreatic, bile, ovarian. I mean the whole lot. And I don't believe that can be explained just by T-cell.
No, so there's several responses going on here. So, because, we don't want to talk about individuals, but, there has been a lot of publicity about individuals, and we believe that some of these individuals have really quite rare histologies that you wouldn't expect to see in a person of that background health and that age, which is, it's quite tragic if we're seeing a recurrence in all of these common cancers and more new, unusual cancers. Which could easily get missed. I mean, GPs, for example, won't have, how many GPs have got experience of parotid salivary gland cancers? Well, probably not very many. I mean, I can't think I've seen a case. Obviously, he was an oncologist.
This is what I mean by rare cancers. I would call rare cancers the ones that your jobbing oncologist only sees very rarely.
Yes.
And now this appears to be they're more common. But then the cancer incidence is more common. And this is one, which is incredible, going back to the Senate, where these people denied there was any increase in cancer. And Ron Johnson, well prepared, has to have a flip chart to show, how can you not be aware of this? And that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who don't want to know. It's like they've been instructed, nothing to see here. And that is not the job of a scientist. It's not the job of a doctor who wants to do the best for the patient.
I see no ships, there's nothing there. Well, try your other eye.
And I know a lot of them know, but they're very worried about speaking out. Because I've had more than one patient who has succumbed to lymphoma. They're not my patients, but I know them, and I have said, have you asked your oncologist what is likely to be the cause? And two of them told me, with different oncologists, and they said, oh yes, they said it's almost certainly as a result of the COVID booster because they're seeing so many similar cases. So why has it not been stopped?
Yeah.
Can you see this? I cannot believe people in a position of power. If I was the chief medical officer and I heard of one or two cases like that, I would be immediately down the MHRA and realise they'd been sitting on thousands of yellow cards, and I would immediately call a halt to it, because that's what they do with a drug that causes sudden unexpected deformity. Like thalidomide, although it took them a long time to do that. But that is what they're meant to do, is to prevent things getting worse. It's not to speculate that this is yet another conspiracy theory and we'll let the next government deal with it. It's just unbelievable.
I mean, you would think it would be uncomfortable sitting on 48,000 red cards yellow cards reporting AstraZeneca.
And it must
all of which were red flags.
And how can you be chief medical officer or chief scientific officer and be aware that your GPs are pumping in to the population boosters every 6 months, knowing that it increases the death rate, unless that is the plan?
It really is. It's really hard to explain, isn't it? It's just...
Yeah, it really is. You have to actually consider that there's clearly no medical or scientific rationale for defending this. There's absolutely zero. So are you going along with an intention to reduce the pension bill or something along those lines? I think you have to ask.
I mean, the very best you can say is some bizarre, negligent groupthink. And we could say a lot worse. Ministry of Truth. It really. I've just been going over some more of. I mean, this is now reading like a prophecy.
That book.
It really is uncanny.
It is uncanny. And do you know what I found really remarkable in that book? Just because I think it encapsulated.
Yeah.
He suddenly realised he's imprisoned for not thinking the right thing, and he's in prison with lots of multiple murderers, rapists, and everything. And when the prison gets overcrowded, they let them out, not him for his thoughts. How similar is that to Starmer?
That's ringing a vague bell, isn't it? Or more than a vague bell. That's exactly what they did, isn't it? After the Southport riots, that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, they let known murderers and rapists out to make room for people who had naughty thoughts.
Well, wrong thought. You have to think the right thoughts. I mean, that was published in 1948, and it's uncannily prophetic. It really is uncannily prophetic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, talking of prophecies, you noticed that 80% of the biochemistry of the molecular architecture of the spike protein was the same as human tissues.
Right, yes. Let me just put it in perspective. I didn't notice this, but my colleague Birger Sorensen, who's a biophysicist with whom I was working on HIV vaccines, we said that we both have come to the same conclusion, and that conclusion is that you could only conclude at the time that Dr. Fauci was either incredibly stupid or the last thing he wanted was a HIV vaccine, because we said you never use the whole envelope for a vaccine. It's just too many antigens. No human would cope with that for protection. You have to select a very few and boost the T-cell response.
Well, you'd have to be making 1,000 different antibodies or something.
Exactly, yes. So, and Fauci did that again and again, about 3 major iterations, worldwide big randomized studies. Not one of them came to fruition, because they were all stopped because the vaccine caused more HIV infection than the placebo arm. So they killed it before it was significant in every single case. And he and the Gates Foundation turned down our approaches for support well over 20 years. We've tried 3 times with lots of evidence, and all they said, it's a very good plan B, but we don't need one. I mean, so I suddenly realised, what we were dealing with. So get back to
the antiretroviral drugs were quite expensive, weren't they?
Yeah, but get back to your question about the 80%. So he'd already worked out that this spike protein was very much like HIV. The last thing he wanted was all of it. So he wanted to analyse the core bits. And one of the things of doing this, and this is just routine, you put it through a thing called blast analysis. So he did that, and I didn't do it. But I'm switched on enough to understand. I get lots of information, what it means. That's my main ability, actually dealing with tiny detail of an electron here or there. That's not me. But I said, this is frightening. I've never seen anything so highly.
What's the blast analysis, Chris? Just unpack.
Basically, it's putting it through a big computer program where you just throw it at lots and lots of sequences to see if there's any significance.
Oh, I see. Looking for the matches. It's a bit like playing Snap.
We're not putting it up there and shooting it with a gun, but
yeah. So it's a bit like that molecule in your pancreas. It's a bit like that molecule in your kidney. It's a bit like that molecule in your brain.
Put it through a program that literally does a blast analysis, and it came back and said, "Hey, it's 79%." So I rounded it up to 80. 79% of this is homologous to known human epitopes. Basically, if you were to ask AI with this, it would say, do not use this as a vaccine. You will get every autoimmune disease under the sun. And that's exactly.
So you're guaranteed autoimmunity, basically.
Yeah, guaranteed autoimmunity. And indeed, even on the VAERS website, there's 131 autoimmune diseases listed as side effects to the vaccine. And that's about as many as there are.
Yeah. So these spike proteins are so similar to many human tissues. Where when the immune system makes antibodies to the spike protein, it has cross-reactivity with many human proteins.
Yes, indeed.
And beats them up because it thinks they're foreign.
I mean, and it does do the entire spectrum, which is why they've been trying to cover it up and say, oh, these are extremely rare.
Right.
If you actually add all the 131 autoimmune diseases that have been linked to the vaccine into one, I think it would come to around a sixth or a seventh of everybody. They might have severe variants or just mild variants, very mild. But it is a flag saying, no, do not proceed. We cannot deal with that. And the other thing that really annoys me with the, I was going to say simpletons that run our health service, is not
fair comment
with that. Because how can they say you've got to get the vaccine to save the health service when I personally know people who have been hospitalised for months, who are now on autoimmune treatment requiring anti-TNF weekly.
Sophisticated treatments.
The knock-on effect of the costs of the NHS of this is horrendous, and that's before we come to any link with cancer. You've got to think the autoimmune diseases and the cardiovascular thing. People who've been in hospital for months because of strokes induced by the AstraZeneca, I mean, that's well documented.
Massive nursing and medical care for years.
Yeah, and myocarditis in the young people. And everyone's saying, well, it's rare and it's mild. Mild myocarditis is like mild pregnancy or mild death.
Mild forgetting your parachute when you fall out of an aeroplane.
Yeah, I mean, it's there, and we can still identify it on MRI in these young people who had it, months and months later.
And the idea that you've now got essentially a potential ectopic electrical foci in the myocardium, means that surely it's got to mean that atrial or ventricular fibrillation is a much more likely event, especially if the myocardium was challenged by illness or toxins or hypoxia.
I bump into people in my village regularly who perhaps seen me with you or heard about what have you, saying that, that one, they really like listening to the truth, but two, they say, ever since I had that vaccine, I went into unbelievable tachycardia, and they kind of treated it, but I'm still in atrial fibrillation, and I'm no longer as fit as I used to be. If I do exert myself, then the tachycardia comes back. And that is all due to the vaccine. But
it's exertional tachycardia,
the GP says, well, it might be related, but, it's only mild. But you must have the booster because that will protect you. I mean, and they've conditioned people into having a vaccine, getting ill with something dreadful, and the patient comes to the conclusion, thank God I had the vaccine, otherwise I could have died from this. I actually had a colleague tell me that to my face, and it was like, I just needed to get 1984 out. I said, have you read this? What is going on?
Yeah.
are not only invisible, but barely understood at all. For years,
time is spent. We all pay rent. I see the stars like the bars and it's still getting bent. And God sent with the message I bent. Yeah, Exodus, freedom's a must. Hands up, head high, let the Babylon bust. Avoid capture humanity surplus. Wade in the water, watch the systems turn rust. The machines that crushed us return to dust. No more bloodhound tracking, scars on back. Running from the cracker, whips whacking, no wondering why. Kids are strapped, dismissing facts. Unleash the kraken, camouflaging water.
Really? The captions are so small and faint, I can barely see it. In the water, way, in the water, children, way, in the water, God's on trouble, the water. In the water, way, in the water, children, way, in the water.
Keeping the plan on the hush as we speaking, sneaking off the plantation this evening. So gather all your courage, ain't a mission for the weakling. Must seep through our toes as we flee with the visions of a better life for us.
Bipolar with schizophrenia to come off all of their psychiatric medications after decades of use because of a dietary change? I believe that's true. Stay tuned to learn why. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Joseph Wood-During. I'm a board-certified psychiatrist, and I run the Tabor Clinic, a medical practice that specializes in getting people off psychiatric medications. Today we're going to be talking about the 2 dietary interventions that we recommend here at the Tabor Clinic. And we've picked these diets because both of them have a great track record in improving not only your mental health, but also your physical health too. So this introductory video is going to guide you through why we strongly recommend these diets for people with psychiatric symptoms. And so our recommendation is going to be that you try these diets consecutively, meaning that you build them on top of each other. So you're going to start with the first diet, and if you're still having residual symptoms, then you're going to move on to the next diet. So let's jump in and learn more about them. So the first diet we're going to recommend is Paleo Whole Foods diet. So the Paleo diet takes us back to the foods that we evolved eating. These were the foods before the agricultural revolution, when we started farming a lot of things like wheat, and they became big staples in our day-to-day diet. This paleo-style diet emphasizes fruits, vegetables, and high-quality animal proteins, while avoiding foods that were unnatural to early humans. These are things like seed oils, dairy, large quantities of legumes such as soybeans and peanuts, lentils, and processed foods and additives. Now, while it may make intuitive sense that returning to the diet we ate for most of our evolutionary history could have health benefits, there's actually a substantial amount of science backing why this diet can be so powerful for not only your mental health but also your physical health. First, the paleo diet removes several of the most common food sensitivities.
What makes Woodlands Senior Living Maine's premier senior living communities? Just ask our residents.
This includes things like grains such as gluten, but also dairy and legumes like soybean, which are known to affect a large number of people. But besides it being helpful because it avoids common food sensitivities, it's actually a low carbohydrate, low sugar diet. This is because it avoids grains, so you're not going to be having things like gluten and pasta and rice. And so it's much higher in protein and much higher in fat than the standard American diet. And this is very beneficial for numerous reasons, which we're going to be going into detail in this video. Now, I'm not going to leave it just there with the paleo diet, because I know I'm firing some shots right now. I'm talking about removing really beloved foods, things like cereals, breads, pasta, and even oats. And so I believe a deeper dive here is necessary to make the case for why inconveniencing yourself by removing these foods is worth the effort. So let's start with the grains, and I'm going to start by talking about gluten, which is a protein found in many different types of grains such as wheat, barley, and rye. So gluten has a compound in it called gliadin, and this compound can increase the permeability of the gut wall, and it can cause something called leaky gut. And when you develop leaky gut, this means that particles that normally shouldn't pass through your gut wall
can end up in the bloodstream. These particles can include bacteria, food particles, and toxins that spark inflammation, which can contribute to physical and psychiatric symptoms. And when you remove gluten, it gives the gut wall a chance to heal, and it stops the immune response that's disrupting the body's balance. Now, many people will assume that they don't have a problem with gluten because they've tested negative for celiac disease in the past. However, there are a large number of people who suffer from something called non-celiac gluten sensitivity, and these people, even if they test negative, do benefit from removing gluten from their diet. And then there's another situation where people suspect they don't have any problems with gluten because they don't have digestive symptoms like diarrhea or constipation. However, for some people it's a mistake to believe this, because up to 50% of people with celiac actually don't have GI symptoms. They have symptoms that show up in different areas of the body, such as having brain fog, fatigue, or even anxiety. And because the tests cannot reliably rule out whether anyone is going to be sensitive to gluten, we believe that the best approach is to remove gluten from the diet and then observe any improvements. I don't want to underemphasize how much of a dramatic improvement removing gluten from the diet can be. There are numerous case reports in the medical literature with people who have had severe mental illness for decades, having it all go away and then safely coming off medications because they went on a gluten-free diet. We even have a story in-house in our actual program. Trudy, one of our coaches, was on psychiatric medications for over 20 years until she transitioned to a gluten-free diet, and she came off all her medications and has been well ever since. The improvements with a gluten-free diet can be so life-changing that even Dr. James Greenblatt, who is widely considered to be the leader in the space of integrative and functional psychiatry, even says that every single patient who has a psychotic illness should be given at least a trial of a gluten-free diet to see if it can resolve or greatly improve the person's symptoms. Now, the other reason why it can be important to get rid of grains, even the grains that don't contain gluten, things like rice and oats, is that they are low in nutrient density and they are very high sources of carbohydrates that break down quickly into sugar. So what this means is they often spike your blood sugar and they can worsen insulin resistance. These types of high carbohydrate diets can contribute to weight gain and also psychiatric symptoms, which we're going to be discussing more later on when we talk about the ketogenic diet. Now, the next food that requires a special mention is really dairy. Again, I'm sorry in advance. As a former dairy lover, this can be a really hard one to swallow. So dairy presents problems for numerous reasons. Firstly, many people are actually lactose intolerant, meaning they lack the enzyme needed to digest lactose. That's the sugar that's in milk. Not only does this cause a lot of gassiness, it can alter the gut microbiome by bathing it in sugar that the human body simply is unable to digest. And over the last 2 decades, we're seeing more and more data out there that the actual structure of your gut microbiome is very important in how people feel. Now, not everyone with lactose intolerance needs to stop all dairy products. In fact, some people who are lactose intolerant can tolerate things like yogurt or even hard cheeses. That's because part of the fermenting process that makes these products, it involves bacteria which often break down a lot of the lactose before the end product is made. However, that's not the whole story, because dairy also contains proteins that can trigger immune responses in patients even without lactose intolerance. What that means is that those patients aren't actually having problems with breaking down the sugar, but they're actually reacting to some of the proteins in the milk, such as casein or whey, which are common food sensitivities that can cause inflammation for some people. Now, to end this section on a high note, what I do want to say is that many people who are allergic to milk protein or people who are having problems with lactose intolerance, they can tolerate ghee. Now, ghee is essentially clarified butter, and it is mostly fat. And so because it doesn't have any lactose and it doesn't have any milk protein in there, many people can still enjoy the buttery and nuttiness of ghee, which is really common in Indian foods and really can be used as a butter substitute in a lot of other foods. Now let's move on to talk about the next category that might seem a little unusual to you, and that is the avoidance of legumes. Now,
businesses in small towns grew more than 30% selling on Amazon, like Blue Track. Amazon helped me reach customers.
Better get another whim if you want test, cause it's so thick, it'll make it up a show mess. Hit the spot, put the shine on flash, smashing
Now, lectins are a protein found in legumes that bind to the gut wall and might seem a little as a butter substitute in a lot of clarified butter, and it is mostly fat. And so because it doesn't have any lactose and doesn't have any milk protein in there, many people can still enjoy the buttery and nuttiness of ghee, which is really common in Indian foods and really can be used as a butter substitute in a lot of other foods. Now let's move on to talk about the next category that might seem a little unusual to you. That is the avoidance of legumes. Now, if you're like me, this may be a surprise to you because you're probably told that things like peanuts and soybeans and lentils were actually healthy. You know, these were a good source of protein. However, while that may be true, what is often overlooked by many people is that these foods are high in something called lectins. Now, lectins are a protein found in legumes that bind to the gut wall and make it leaky. Yes, they're just like gliadin from gluten. And if you remember from that previous section, when you have a leaky gut, you get a lot of gastrointestinal byproducts entering the bloodstream causing inflammation. Things like bacteria and food products, and they generally tend to make people feel unwell. On top of that, legumes also contain something called phytic acid, which is classified as an anti-nutrient. What this means is that this product binds to minerals around it in the gut, things like your calcium, your magnesium, your iron, and your zinc, and they make them less available for the body to absorb. This means that people can be eating a lot of these foods, but they're not really absorbing the nutrients from them or the nutrients from foods that they're eating along with them. And so what we see is for people who rely heavily on legumes for nutrition is that they can actually develop some nutritional deficiencies over time. On top of this issue, just like with the grains previously, if you're eating a lot of legumes, they are fairly high in carbohydrates, and they can also contribute to spikes in your blood sugar, which is problematic for a number of reasons that we're going to be discussing shortly. Now, the last thing that I think is really important to know about the paleo diet is that it excludes processed foods, which are essentially factory-made foods that are packed with additives and preservatives. I like to think of processed foods as essentially junk foods. So with the high sugar content, they can really spike our blood sugar and cause cravings and lead to a whole range of addiction-like responses to food. On top of that, many of the food dyes and the additives that they use in processed foods, especially in the US, they're even banned in Europe due to their potential impact on health, particularly in children prone to hyperactivity. Unfortunately, in the US, because of our government regulation, we have a much higher threshold for banning these types of food products. In my opinion, I think to the detriment of the health of the US population. And so, one of the great things about removing processed foods from the diet is it's going to allow you to, one, avoid the sugar, but you're also going to avoid all these chemicals that are in there, all these preservatives and food dyes and things like MSG that are put in there to make the foods tasty. But really, the human body was never really designed to encounter a lot of these things, and they also cause a lot of reactions in people. Okay, so now that we've done a walkthrough of the paleo diet, let's talk about the next diet in the list. So, if you've done the paleo diet and your symptoms still haven't resolved and you're looking to try something next, I would recommend working with a dietitian or a medical professional to try a ketogenic diet. Now, the ketogenic diet differs from the paleo diet because it restricts the amount of sugar and carbohydrates you can consume. With the paleo diet, you don't have to monitor them. Now, as long as you're avoiding things like grains and legumes, which are high in carbs, you don't need to monitor what you're doing with the other foods. I mean, you can have as many fruits that you'd like. You could have potato or sweet potato. There's no real calorie counting or any kind of caps on carbs. Now, this is different with the ketogenic diet because with this diet, you are purposely trying to get your body into a state of ketosis. This means that you've restricted the amount of carbohydrates that you're consuming, that your liver is now starting to produce an alternative fuel source called ketones. Typically, to get into a state of ketosis, you have to restrict your carbs to less than 50 grams a day. Now, why go through all of the trouble of limiting carbs? I mean, with the paleo diet, we already took away things like breads and pasta and rice. Why would we take away things like lots of potatoes or fruit? And there's a good reason for this, and it's all about blood sugar regulation, insulin resistance, and the effect that they have on your mental health. Now, this may not be you, but I know that there's a lot of people out there who write off the ketogenic diet as being some kind of fad diet that's just going to be around for a little bit. There's no real scientific backing to it at all. That's really not the case here. Now, I want people to sit up and listen, because we actually have good clinical trial data of using the ketogenic diet in people with severe mental illness, where it has led to remarkable outcomes. I'm going to briefly talk about two of these studies. Now, the first study I want to talk about is a study conducted in France by Dr. Dana and his team. And in this study, they brought in 31 of their sickest patients to an inpatient psychiatric hospital, and then they...
Girl, let's get this done so we can hang out later.
Yeah. Well, someone in class asked if we agreed with. Yeah, I mean, we don't follow too much of strict regimens. But over the years, we've tried a lot of different things as far as the wheat, gluten, dairy, the different diets. Keto, paleo, high carb, low carb. We fluctuate with the seasons and our daily activity and kind of just moment to moment. Yeah, we try to keep that balance so that way there if we do have, say, bread or regular wheat, we can handle it just fine. Too much though, if we have too much for too long of a time, the inflammation stuff, you can't deny it. We feel it in our joints, it comes out in our skin, and then once we back off, within 24 to 48 hours, there's a huge improvement in the inflammation, in our energy. Right, so I don't completely eliminate it. There are times, yeah, well, I want to go at least 3 to 5 days without it. Yeah, the 72-hour rule. Excuse me, the 72-hour rule. I'm chewing on lemon seeds. Cheers. 2 lemon seeds. Take 2 lemon seeds and call me in the morning. Remember that commercial? With the little kid with the doctor thing? I can't remember, was it aspirin or something? And be like, take 2 of these and call me in the morning. I don't know. I'm going to look it up now that you asked. I can see it in my head. I think it was a little boy and he had on that doctor, like that metal circle thing on his head. What was that thing for anyways? I look all distorted on your forehead. Is this the afterlife? And now he'd go take 2 of these and call me in the morning. Did he have cookies though? What commercial was that? I don't know. I'm gonna go with the early 90s. If it was. The Dimetap cold medicine. The famous TV ad with that phrase is the Dimetap cold medicine. Remember that stuff? Commercial from the early 1990s and 1980s. Most users on Reddit, tip of my tongue, agree that the campaign famously played on old adages about treating sickness. Many agree that this campaign played on old adages about treating sickness.
What do you want by your shop? Outgrown your summer.
Feed a cold, starve a fever. Feed a cold, starve a fever. Take 2 of these and call me in the morning.
And you said no. You said you can't live in a world in America.
Yeah, see? He has a thing on his head. How did I remember that? Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Beautiful. A lot of advice.
Judy, they call me in the morning.
But the best advice is what doctors have said millions of times. Take Dimetap. Dimetap.
I have not seen that probably in like 30 plus years. And all I could see with that kid with that thing on his head and the cookies. Take 2 of these and call me in the morning.
A lot of advice. When you get a cold or an allergy, you need some herbal tea. You also get a lot of it. When you get a cold or an allergy, you need some herbal tea. You also get a lot of advice. What you want to do is feed a cold. A lot of advice.
Judy to call me in the morning.
But the best advice is what doctors have said millions of times. Take Dimetap. Dimetap in non-prescription formulas brings proven relief. So take the advice of doctors and pharmacists.
The word.
Huh? And take Dimetap, the best advice you can take.
The best advice you can take. Was that a hit?
Their cells and use it for energy. And so the neurons in the brain are starving for energy. And so when they look at these populations of people who have insulin resistance and they follow them over time, what they find is that insulin resistance and also this state of glucose hypermetabolism, which they can measure by looking at the brain, they predict memory impairment and the development of Alzheimer's. And this trajectory of worsening cognitive status that falls in step with insulin resistance has led many to actually call Alzheimer's now type 3 diabetes. Now, while we have growing and compelling evidence that insulin resistance is causing problems like Alzheimer's, it's not that much of a step to believe that these same processes could actually be involved in causing psychiatric symptoms as well, like depression or anxiety. Now, one of the reasons why the ketogenic diet can be effective for psychiatric conditions, but also things like Alzheimer's, is that when you go into a state of ketosis, not only are you making a different fuel source, right? You're now making ketones, which the cells in the body can easily absorb and use, but you're also fixing insulin resistance, meaning that those cells are going to be better able to pull glucose out of your bloodstream and use it for energy. Now, the next reason why the ketogenic diet can be very helpful for both your mental and physical health is that it reduces inflammation. One of the problems with consuming a lot of carbohydrate and glucose for energy is that it can lead to the formulation of something called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. These are compounds that are created when these sugars bind to proteins or fats around the body, damaging them. This process, called glycation, happens naturally when people are consuming glucose, but it accelerates and becomes more problematic when people have high blood sugar. And so when you have a lot of these AGEs, they start to accumulate in different tissues around the body.
He taught you to treat others with respect, and that throwing a ball like a girl is a compliment. He tucked you in at night, drove hours to help you move into your very first apartment, and always encouraged you to follow your dreams. He's your father. His today matters. Woodland Senior Living. Maine-based, family-owned and operated. We've been caring for Maine families for generations. Woodland Senior Living. If you need us, we're here.
We have got to the point where literally anybody can build a fully working app without knowing how to code. This is Base 44. This is a first look at the current industry-leading AI app builder, and you wouldn't believe the kind of apps that people are creating. Smart nutrition apps, inventory trackers, onboarding tools, you name it. And if the only thing stopping me from making the app is the idea, then why not build an app that gives me endless app ideas? So let's make it. Pro tip, I draft the full app spec in ChatGPT, and then I drop the prompts directly into Base 44. It gives me super detailed structure. And here it is. Everything I laid out in detail as it goes. This is pretty awesome, but I want to make it playful, so I'm going to add a swipe left and swipe right interface. The same usability we all know. Now I'm going to add one more feature, so every idea that I favorite will turn into a kickoff prompt to start building the app itself. And that's it. Just come up with your idea, any idea, and Base 44 will do the rest. So go to Base 44 and create apps with your name on it.
Mars needs bluegrass hip-hop. Decided or realized how hard it was to live without gangster.
And immune cells start to bind to them, to remove them. And when immune cells bind to them, it creates an inflammatory response. And this inflammatory response, if it goes on, it can actually damage the tissues that it's binding to. And this can lead to a whole bunch of problems in different areas of the body. For instance, if this is happening in your blood vessels, these inflamed blood vessels over time become less flexible, and it leads to things like hypertension and increased risk for cardiovascular problems. If it happens to the blood vessels in the liver, it can lead to something called chronic kidney disease. And if it happens to the small vessels that supply the tiny nerves in your hands and feet, it can start to kill off those vessels and starve the nerves there that are relying on those vessels, leading to diabetic peripheral neuropathy. We have burning and tingling in your hands and feet. And so one of the most beneficial things that we can do to reduce this level of inflammation, which is taking a toll on the tissues in our body, is to cut back on high sugar intake. Now, the final reason why the ketogenic diet can be very helpful is that it reduces oxidative stress, which is a byproduct of constantly using glucose as the cellular fuel source. Our bodies over time have evolved to run on two fuel sources, glucose and ketones. And for a long time, we would switch between burning those two different fuels. When we had carbohydrates, we would burn the glucose, and then when we didn't have carbohydrates, we would switch over to using ketones. And this was very common prior to our industrial life, where now we have a lot of access to plentiful carbohydrate-rich food. And because of that, many people will actually never go into a state of ketosis where they need to burn ketones. Now, the problem with that is that glucose metabolism in the cell actually produces more free radicals compared to ketones. So what are free radicals? Essentially, these are reactive oxygen species. I want you to think of them as byproducts of glucose metabolism. And so, just a little lesson in biology here. You have a cell, and inside the cell there's something called a mitochondria. And the mitochondria essentially uses glucose and ketones to turn it into something called ATP. ATP is what the cells use for energy. Now, the process in turning glucose and ketones into ATP is different, and glucose, when it is metabolized into ATP, produces more reactive oxygen species or free radicals. Now, these byproducts of glucose metabolism, they can actually bind to different things in the cells like proteins or DNA, and they can damage them. But the human body has a way of counteracting this. In fact, we produce our own antioxidants, and we get our own antioxidants from food. And so they can neutralize these byproducts in the cell and prevent them from damaging things. A useful metaphor to think about this is kind of like the mitochondria being a factory, and the free radicals or reactive oxygen species, they're kind of like smoke coming out, sort of polluting the air. And our antioxidants are like a filter that you put over the factory that pulls out all of that smoke. Ketones, on the other hand, when they're used by the mitochondria, they don't produce a lot of free radicals in these byproducts, so they're a much cleaner fuel to burn. And so the issue that we run into with a high carbohydrate, high sugar diet is that we are constantly using glucose, meaning that we're creating these free radicals that are overwhelming the cell's antioxidant capacity. And because of this, these free radicals start to damage the cells and impair the functioning of organs. This is especially relevant to the brain, which is our most metabolically active organ in the body. Despite being only 2% of our body weight, our brain uses over 20% of the fuel in our body. And so if we're having these problems with the overproduction of free radicals and the depletion of antioxidants, it is especially detrimental to our neuronal health. So one of the reasons why going into a ketogenic diet can be so helpful for your cellular and your neuronal health is that it gives the cell a break from burning glucose and generating more of these free radicals, and it gives it a different fuel source that doesn't produce as much of them. And as a result of that, you're able to give the cell a break and not burn through all of the antioxidants and cause all that cellular damage. Okay, so I know that was a lot and it got kind of sciencey there, but I do think it's helpful to go into the real reasons why these types of dietary interventions can be so helpful. And so let's summarize. 1, the ketogenic diet, it's going to reverse insulin resistance and it's going to provide the brain with an easy source of energy to use, which is ketones. It's also going to minimize total body inflammation by reducing those AGEs, those advanced glycation end products. And finally, it reduces cellular stress and damage by reducing free radical accumulation. And while I do think it's important to know the real sciencey reasons for this, probably the most compelling reason to believe in the ketogenic diet is that it simply works, and we have great clinical research showing that it's effective in patients with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. And the medical literature is just filled with case reports of people having remarkable improvements with this diet. Such as this case report submitted by Dr. Westman, who describes a 7-year-old woman with chronic schizophrenia who weighed 330 pounds. She'd been hospitalized numerous times throughout her life for psychosis, paranoia, and suicidal ideation, and she had had multiple suicide attempts. Within 8 days of implementing a low-carb, 20 grams per day ketogenic diet, her symptoms improved. And after 12 months, she had stopped.
Amazon offers hourly employees health care on day 1 for the whole family.
Okay, so RDAP, Residential Drug Abuse Program, they have these at the prisons. If you successfully complete the program, you get a year off and you get a guaranteed 6-month halfway house. Now, these guys get released in a couple years, but if you would have completed the program, you would have gotten
all medications and lost 150 pounds and experienced a complete resolution of 63 years of auditory and visual hallucinations. And according to the author, at the time that this was published back in 2009, 12 months after she had come off all of her medications, she was still symptom-free and was now living independently. But what about this case series published by Calabrese in 2024, where they looked at 3 adult outpatients with major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety, and various other medical concerns, who all achieved full remission of their major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder, all within 12 weeks of starting a personalized ketogenic diet. And finally, if there are some people who really want to hear it from the mouths of patients who have gone through this, there is the Metabolic Mind YouTube channel, and they have a playlist called Stories of Lived Experience with Ketogenic Therapy, where it goes into the personal stories of people who have recovered substantially from their mental health problems by using these diets. Truly, these interventions are incredibly powerful and can have life-changing impacts on people's health, and this area of research is so hot at the moment. Last time I checked, there were nearly 10 clinical trials going on at major academic institutions around the world, all looking at the ketogenic diet in different psychiatric conditions. However, what I would say is that for us here today, we do not need to wait for this research to start trying some of these dietary interventions to get people to feel well again. The paleo diet is safe to try on your own, but the ketogenic diet I would recommend you do with a nutritionist or a dietitian who knows what they're doing, or a medical provider, because it is a more complicated diet and there can be some complications. And so I hope this presentation has really given you a nudge to start to look at these dietary interventions. They can be some of the most powerful non-drug interventions out there that you could do for your mental health. And for many people, they actually perform much better than the drugs ever did. If you're looking to learn more about the ketogenic diet for mental health, you're going to be really interested in this interview that I did with Georgia Eden.
Time in the feds back in the day for fraud, and I was in the residential drug abuse program to get a year off, and I lost my year. Looks like Eddie is going to be...
About 14 hours ago, Matt Walsh released a video on his YouTube channel essentially saying that the evidence base for antidepressants and SSRI medication was essentially bogus, completely overblown, and it would not hold up to any scrutiny. He went on to say that the deception about antidepressant research has led to one of the biggest controversies in modern medicine, the overprescription of medications that essentially, from his perspective, don't work. These may seem like bold claims, but that's what we're going to be reacting to today. Is he right about this, or did he get some things wrong? That's what we're going to be looking at today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Joseph Witt-During, and I'm a board-certified psychiatrist, and I specialize in helping people safely taper off medications. With that aside, let's jump into today's video.
Imagine that we're back in the late 1980s or early 1990s, and you're feeling depressed, and nobody wants to talk to you, so you pay a psychiatrist to listen to your problems, but even after talking things out with your shrink, you're still not feeling great. All hope seems lost. Then the shrink tells you not to despair because you have an opportunity to participate in a clinical trial for a new class of drug that has potential to cure all of your symptoms called selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or SSRIs. And if you enter the trial, you have a chance of getting the new SSRI drug, or you can get a placebo that does nothing. But you're told it's a win-win. You know, if you participate in the clinical trial, Big Pharma will get...
Who knows how long, maybe 30 days or more. I am JLR investigating continuous coverage of PG. Let me know what you think of this.
some more data on whether this new class of drug actually works, and you have a chance of being cured. If you're not cured, then in all likelihood, the worst case scenario is, it's not a big deal. Either you get a placebo and nothing changes, or you get the real drug, which has relatively modest side effects like dry mouth, nausea, dizziness, and so on. In exchange for enduring those side effects, your depression might go away. So what do you have to lose? Well, this was the process that drug companies used to convince the world that SSRIs worked. After running a bunch of double-blind clinical trials, they found that people who took the SSRIs ultimately reported that they felt better than people who received the placebo. And therefore, we were told that the whole serotonin theory of depression must be true. After all, when people took SSRIs and had more serotonin in their brains, their depression went away. People who took the sugar pill didn't do as well, so there you have it. Science wins again. But there's a major problem with this whole methodology. It's a problem that somehow didn't occur to any of the media outlets or physicians who pushed SSRIs for many decades. And you might have to think about it for a few minutes, but eventually it becomes obvious.
Trust the science.
Here's the issue.
Yeah, these people
In
need
practice, these clinical trials were not actually double-blind studies.
When we
The
already
vast majority of
knew
patients were able
the
to
studies
break
had already
blind,
been
as
done
they
and
say
it
in
got
the industry,
ignored,
and that
and
means
so
they were
many
able
were
to figure
targeted
out
and killed. It's so
whether they
sad.
got the real SSRI or the placebo,
Thank
which
goodness so
destroys the
many
whole
are
study.
treading on
And that's because in most
and
cases, the
continuing
patients
to
who got
wake
the
up.
real drug very quickly
And every
noticed
day
they
there
were
are more
experiencing
people
some
that
of the
kind
side
of have that
effects. After all, if you
epiphany
take a pill
or
and
do the research
start
or just
experiencing
realize
dry
it on
mouth or
their own
nausea
for
or something
whatever
like that,
means.
then you'll probably
Pieces of the
conclude
puzzle,
that
they
you're
say.
taking an
Sometimes
active
it's just
medication.
missing that one little
That's
piece,
exactly
and then
what
all of a
happened in many of
sudden,
these trials. In fact, one study conducted by researchers at Columbia
absolutely incredible.
says that 89% of participants correctly guessed that they were on the SSRI, which is an extremely high number for a clinical trial. Now, you could probably see the issue, hopefully. If the studies
It
aren't
does,
really
to
double-blind,
realize those things and
then
kind
we
of
have no
figure
way
them
of
out
knowing
and
if
know
the
in
SSRIs
your heart of
actually
hearts.
improved people's minds. It's quite
It
possible
can feel
that these
liberating
patients
in a way.
were actually feeling better because they thought they were taking a wonder
But
drug.
then when you're faced with the
And
challenges within
because
our
we're talking
systems
about
and you see
people's
so many systems
emotional state, which is very
and how
fickle
that's entered
and
into
highly
the
suggestible,
public systems.
if you tell them they're taking a wonder drug that will make them feel better, a lot of people will just feel better because you told them that they would. And they convinced
Yeah, we
themselves
say
that
that
it was
as far
working,
as
so they
them
told the
making
therapist that they were
mandates
improving.
and
And
putting
this is
that
commonly
across the
referred to as the
board
placebo effect, of course. And the
using
only
our
way to
public
defeat
schools
it,
and
particularly when
children
you're
has
trying to
little
assess
profiting
the effectiveness of
margins.
psychoactive
Bunch of
drugs,
druggies.
is
Who
with
killed
double-blind
JFK?
studies. But that didn't really happen with SSRIs.
Because it's not possible, right? You know, with any psychiatric medication, and this really calls into question why we even do double-blind studies in psychiatry, right? Because you could do, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to do a double-blind study maybe with, like, let's say, an antibiotic or something like that. You know, one group of people gets the antibiotic for the infection, the other group doesn't, and the infection goes away. But there's, a lot of the times, there's not really strong side effects to the medication where you could detect it, where you could detect that you got the fake pill and break blind. But with psychiatric medications, essentially you're taking drugs which alter your mind. I mean, these are powerful medications. They can blunt you out. They can make you feel very indifferent. They can cause a whole range of side effects. And so in any double-blind placebo-controlled trial of a psychiatric medication, he's absolutely right that probably most of the people are going to be able to tell whether they got the active medication or the placebo.
And this is not some crackpot theory, by the way. A few years ago, a researcher at Harvard named Irving Kirsch found that, quote, analysis of the published data and the unpublished data that were hidden by drug companies reveals that most, if not all, of the benefits are due to the placebo effect. The relatively small differences between drug and placebo and antidepressant trials are at least in part due to breaking blind and discerning that one is in the drug group because of the side effects produced by the drug.
Let's add a little bit of detail to that, because I know the paper is talking about. So Irving Kirsch used a FOIA request. This is Freedom of Information. And this was a big story about maybe 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, I think, something like that. And what they found was that drug companies weren't publishing the studies that failed. And so we had a lot of studies in the public domain that it looked like these antidepressant medications worked. But then when people asked to see the full dossier of clinical trials submitted to the FDA, what they noticed was that there was a lot of negative studies in there, studies where the drug and the placebo failed to differentiate. And instead of the pharmaceutical companies publishing that in the public domain, they essentially left it hidden.
Exactly. So you remember we've brought this up quite a few times in 2007 and 8, Main Parent Federation. Yeah, they wanted to ignore all the paperwork, documented testimonies, the actual studies that they had done to show how those studies that they were promoting to show that it worked. Yeah, it was all a farce, really. How, not demographically. Right, when you look at how they did their studies in certain areas, exactly. And when that was trying to be shown to people within the healthcare systems so they'd understand how that trickery was being done by some dirty, nasty slugs within our systems that are profiting from these drugs and lawsuits, and then getting them mental treatment, helping them come off the drugs. What a joke. So this was being heavily talked about, I remember, in 2007 and 8. And it had already been years of them trying to explain the dangers of those drugs and the child murders and stuff we had been witnessing and concerned about, and people within certain mental facilities prescribing those medications. Yeah, and when we had a group discussion, and this was all being filmed and documented by people with GoPros and buttons and hairpins, glasses, eyepieces. I mean, it's unbelievable. When people don't understand those things and they want to act like we're just crazy, trying to one-up somebody, get a job. No, that's why we explain to people, hey, we're retards on disability and we're lifers, okay? Yeah, no, we're lifers. We were told that we were lifers. Right, but that doesn't mean we still can't be productive members of society, share good information, live a healthy life. It can be really difficult for people at those levels, okay? You're not going to tell me shit, dude, because I'm one of them. And they did it to me. And what the sick fucking motherfucking druggies and pieces of shit around this place have been doing, coddling state workers and druggies, teaching people lessons, we told them in 2010 they made a big mistake. The private investigator in 2009 who shot himself tried to tell them, and they didn't want to listen to it. And the fucking shit and the rhetoric that comes out of these fucking monkeys and goons' mouth is disgusting. That's horrible enough, and they deserve life in prison. That's bad enough. Then we have the sick motherfucker with our children who have been fucked and tortured and abused for years. It's unspeakable. You need to get them away from them, especially my little boy. Do you understand that? I know, what is he now? A teenager now, right? He's still my little boy. My 22-year-old is still my little boy. Regardless of what you sick fucks say and what you've been doing around here and playing these games. Believe me when I say, if you think that fucking monkey goon doing this shit that you're getting to do that crap is going to be the only one to get a fucking 2x4 up the ass, nice and naily. We got sandpaper on some. I'm telling you right now. They're in the shop. You want to go look? We got them already in the shop. 2x4s wrapped with sandpaper and nails. We're not going to use them. No, we're just going to hand them out. to mentally ill, over-medicated fucks that you people have been fucking with. I know, you got them ready for us, thanks. And we're just going to pass out the toys and hope that they do what you trained them to do. Take out the bad guys, right? You sick fucks. Do you question my authority? Yeah, I have none. I have none. Neither do you. But we do have a voice. I can hear myself. Can you hear me? So you're hearing voices. I am hearing voices. What are they saying? Does it mean anything? Punch yourself in the face. Punch a person you don't like in the face. Oh, you'll listen to that one and then say the voices told you to do it, right? No, just punch yourself in the face. Oh, you're not going to listen to the voice then? No? Huh. Well, what makes you so picky and choosy and give you the ability to decipher do, don't do? I hear things, respond, reaction. What is it? What is it? Yeah, so I mean, whether it's my voice or someone else's voice, or if I push play on one of these songs and they say something, I mean, does that give you an excuse? I heard a voice say, I'm gonna put a bullet in your brain, bitch, because when the deal goes down, you better sing the song. It won't be long. Oh, I just heard, put a bullet in the brain, bitch. The voices told me to. See, regardless, I'm still going to go to jail if I were to do that. If I were to just go put a bullet in someone's brain because I heard voices say it. Right, so now if you don't know where the voices are coming from, do you hear voices that are just coming out of thin air? Is it passing by like a radio? Does it have a strong signal? Can you hear it clearly? I know some you might get static, some get tinnitus symptoms, you get buzzing and ringing. Here we go again, huh? I hope folks are getting it. I really do. Remember, the most important thing for us is getting help for our children who have been fucked and tortured for years, and educating the public as to how they got away with it, how people were fooled and thought they were doing the right thing, how many saw how that was just a, what do they call that, a scapegoat, so then people are playing fucking stupid. Yeah, that shit got old in 2013. You sick fucks. So, yeah, what about that little boy he beat up in the tub? What was that all about? Do you want to look into it? Have you heard people's statements on what's going on? I hope so, because before you kind of make those solid, conclusive decisions and then speak so confidently about them and turn your head to the targeting of innocent people because you think someone's a bully or deserves it, that Karen has had it coming for years. Yeah, that's what druggies and criminals say. Did you catch on to that one? Yeah, a lot of good investigators and people involved with these things over the years, just good people. Many that don't even work for anybody. They're just citizens trying to live day by day, just like anyone else. New stuff comes along each day. There's so much to learn. There's endless books. You could never read all the information in history, probably. But it's neat, you know, to gather up people who do like to read a lot of that stuff just for fun, like doing a crossword puzzle. You know, some like to read a new page every day. Oh, sometimes it's so interesting, you read 10 pages. Some things you reread, some poems, excerpts. Say it again now. War. Huh. Good God. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again. I wonder how many times I've said that in my life. War. Huh. Good God. What is it? Absolutely nothing. Oh, here come the retainers. Uh-oh. Here come the retainers, boys and girls. If you're wondering and you have some kind of awareness and you're kind of like, what does that mean? Retainers? What is she talking about? That's for them to wonder. Let's give them something to wonder about. Sometimes they put a lot of interesting theories and stories as to what they think the things we say mean. Oh my gosh. This is about, they're going to attack. Like, what are you talking about? Are you fucking psycho? One time I said the word carry, and they flipped out like I was going to burn the place down because I was talking about Stephen King's movie Carrie. I was just making some statements. I thought it was interesting, the pig's blood and understanding the actual undertones and messages. I think, the writer was conveying, I can't get into Stephen King's head and say for sure that those were his intentions when writing that. But using my common sense, I'd have to say, for it to be that geniusly done, there was an awareness there that they had intentions of bringing forth that message. Right, when you see those systems too, that are directly in line, streams, information reels that are directly in line with those kind of cases and concerns when it comes to mental illness, religion, possessions, ghosts, aliens, technology, rural areas. I mean, he's the master. I love psychological thrillers and murder mysteries type stuff. I love it. Psychological thrillers are probably my favorite. Backrooms, would I say that's was that considered a psychological thriller? I would say, yeah, somewhat, on some level. Yeah, hold on. You want me to explain what I think the undertones and messages were with the movie Carrie? Really? Okay, so remember the scene where the girls were in the bathroom making fun of her? Because she didn't know why she was bleeding and having a period. Her mom never taught her. She was really, really Catholic. Had the house filled with candles and Bibles. I mean, they really overdid it. And she really talked like this. And Carrie? Carrie? Right. All the girls were making fun of her and laughing at her, and they were throwing the tampons at her because she thought she was dying. She didn't know what was happening to her. And the school nurse came in and saw them teasing her and told them to get lost. Right, I mean, it's a scenario so many of us have experienced in different situations, being on either end. Yeah, we've been on either end. And in the middle, unfortunately. And it doesn't feel good. No, you almost, when people try to get you to go along with that stuff, yeah, I can remember that, and I never, yeah, it didn't ever catch on. Yeah, and those people, when they see you're not playing along with them and you actually give them a dirty look, like, what are you doing? And you try to help the person they're fucking with. Yeah, I mean, when they see that you're giving them a look, like, what the fuck? They're gone. Notice how it's the same way as we get older with different businesses and stuff like that. Amazing. The psychoanalysis, really, if you want to get into that. So yeah, also in the movie Carrie, aside from that, remember the pig's blood? They dumped the pig's blood on her at the dance. Yeah, they made sure she got enough votes so she'd be the one on the stage. And then they dumped the pig's blood on her. It's interesting they used pig's blood. Oh, when you really think about it, it's a genius. I know, once you think about that and you understand those things, then you go, oh yeah, wow, that was genius. Stand By Me, another good one. When you understand you start to connect those dots, and mental illness, technology, misconceptions with religion, life, beliefs about life, this existence. Amazing. Absolutely incredible. I'm totally fascinated. I'm 44 years old, and I can remember back in the 80s and 90s reading Stephen King books as a kid and watching his movies. Pet Sematary really bothered me. I know, and then I watched it 1,000 times because I wanted to not be scared of it. It bothered me that I was scared of it. Yeah, in that part where I couldn't put my ankle near an open bed or couch or anything for a long time. I could not. I had to, if I got near like a bed or a couch or anything, I had to jump up on it or get away from it. I couldn't stand near a couch or a bed that I couldn't see under. I was scared that Gage was going to reach out and cut my Achilles tendon. Oh man, that bothered me so bad. First I played with Jed, and then Mommy came, and I played with Mommy, and now I want to play with you. It's so sad he has to stick his own kid in the neck with a needle. I was like, no fair. No fair. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Good morning. Good to see you. You're welcome. So for newcomers, see, they know what that means. Do you know what that means? It's a certain beat, rhythm, number of notes. So many in class know that when I do that, it's me, myself, and I. So we all know that when I do that, I'm saying, the wonder of it all. Yep. Yep. What were we talking about anyway? Hogwarts! Hogwarts!
He found that the drug effect significantly decreased. I believe, if I remember correctly, it was like 2.7 or a 3-point difference between drug and placebo. Now, in order for that to make sense, you have to understand the scale. And I believe he was looking at the Hamilton Depression Rating Scale, which is a 52-point scale. And so...
Woodland Senior Living of Farmington. Park Residences, private retirement apartments. The community you want.
point difference on a 52-point scale is practically nothing. Now, one that was controversial on its own, but what Matt's talking about now wasn't even brought into it. But this is what Irving Kirsch did. He said that given that the drug placebo difference is only 2.7 points, there's a good chance that that difference could be accounted for by the placebo effect. By the fact that like Matt was saying a moment ago, nearly 90% of people actually knew whether they got the drug versus the placebo. And because of that expectancy bias, because they were told coming into the trial, hey, you may be on a powerful new antidepressant medication that's going to fix depression, they would have felt something in their body and they say, oh man, I'm on the real deal here. And then they would have felt more hopeful. And that might be enough to swing a scale by 3 points. And that essentially could be enough to say that there's no difference between drug and placebo when measured on that scale.
Kirsch goes on to suggest that instead of SSRIs, maybe all patients just be given a placebo. After all, based on the FDA's data, less than 45% of SSRI trials showed a statistically significant benefit of the SSRI over a placebo. And the placebo, of course, has no side effects.
Well, we have to remember what a placebo is in this, because maybe some people hearing this would be like, oh, you just go to your doctor and they just give you sugar pills, essentially. And I'm going to get the same effect. Well, not quite. The reason a lot of people do so much better in a clinical trial for depression is because it's incredibly intensive. I mean, you go there, you talk to a doctor, they ask you a lot of questions about your depression, and then you come back each week, they ask you how you're feeling. There's a lot of social interaction. You feel like you're part of a bigger cause. There's some financial incentives, and so it's not as simple as just getting a sugar pill. It's the whole enterprise of engaging with healthcare professionals, having people call you, check in on you, going places. All of that may give someone a temporary bump in their mood. So it's a lot more than just the pill.
But as we all know, there's no money in prescribing sugar pills, so instead, doctors in the pharmaceutical industry pushed SSRIs based on these garbage clinical trials, which fall apart under the slimmest possible scrutiny. The use of SSRIs among teenagers and adults in this country increased by almost 400%.
Before we move on, I want to cover something that I think is really poorly understood. Now, it could be really easy to hear what Matt is saying, which is all of it technically correct, and say antidepressant medications, they simply don't work. There's no difference from the placebo. But I've taken antidepressant medications and I've given them to a lot of people before, and they definitely have an effect. It's an obvious effect. It's a blunting effect, and this blunting effect can be therapeutic for some people, especially if you're highly anxious. Especially if you're highly anxious. And so you might be asking, well, hey, Dr. Yosef, if these effects are so strong, why does it look like in this clinical trial analysis that they're no different from placebo? And the answer to that question is that these studies are garbage. They're absolute trash. The scale that they use to measure the effect of antidepressants is just some random scale that a bunch of doctors voted on to say, okay, this is what we think is depression. And then they measured the effect of this drug against it. So it was a scale that assessed a whole bunch of arbitrary depression criteria items, instead of a scale that was actually designed to detect the effect of the drug, which is, for antidepressants, most of them, like the SSRIs, is a blunting or sedating effect. Sometimes it's a little energizing, and so if they actually used a scale that did that, they would have found an effect. Now, because psychiatric research is really uninspired, and the researchers really aren't that good in this area, they haven't done anything about it. They're stuck in precedent, and they're using this scale from pretty much like the 50s. And if you're interested in learning more about this, I did a video which we'll have kind of linked up here right now. I'm doing a deep dive into more of the problems with the antidepressant research and simply why it doesn't detect any differences. But from my perspective, yes, this certainly is an antidepressant. There certainly is a blunting effect from these drugs, and they do and they can be beneficial for some people, and some people they can be harmful. I mean, some people, being blunted doesn't make them feel any better. But all of that is missed in this research. Anyway, so let's move on.
From the early 1990s to 2006, and it kept going up.
Up until the 20th century, women in America, and pretty much all over the world, were treated like second-class citizens. In recent decades, however, as more
By 2014, 1 in 10 adults was filling an SSRI prescription. From 2015 to 2021, SSRI use increased by another 35%. So we're talking about tens of millions of prescriptions here. And meanwhile, the number of Americans suffering from depression has only kept increasing. According to Gallup in 2023, the percentage of U.S. adults who reported having been diagnosed with depression at some point in their lifetime reached 29%, nearly 10 percentage points higher than in 2015. So, in other words, we are more depressed than ever, and at the same time, we're taking more antidepressants than ever. And if antidepressants are actually working, then you should see that trend going in the opposite direction. But it's not. Now, these prescriptions have continued even after one of the most prominent medical journals on the planet admitted that actually doctors no longer think that low serotonin levels are linked to depression. In other words, if these drugs actually work, then no one can really explain why. Quoting from the journal Molecular Psychiatry, our comprehensive review of the major strands of research on serotonin show there is no convincing evidence that depression is associated with or caused by lower serotonin concentrations or activity.
So let's stop there. Back in the in the 70s to 80s, psychiatric researchers started saying, wow, we think, depression could be due to a chemical imbalance. And that's because back then they had just discovered medications which they knew had serotonin boosting properties, and they would give them to patients, and they would notice, like I mentioned, this drug effect where some people who would be riddled by anxiety would feel more calm. And so they said, well, maybe this has to do with low serotonin levels. Well, that's kind of wishful thinking, because the reason the people may have been doing better at the time is you've just given them drugs. You've given them drugs that mute the effects of their symptoms. And that was probably, that is, the much more likely explanation. But that story really wasn't picked up because that wasn't a story of tremendous medical improvement. Doctors at that time, they were coming off the end of like the antibiotic era where, we found antibiotics and they were like these magic bullets and they would hit this illness, and psychiatrists wanted to be like these impressive doctors, and they say, yeah, we've localized the problem in people who are unhappy, it's called depression, and we've got something, it's this sort of chemical bullet and it's going to fix it. So it's a story that has that's a lot more impressive, that kind of speaks to scientific progress, and so people latched onto it. But the more sinister thing that happened at this time was that the pharmaceutical industry really ran with it, and they put it in all of their ads. There's a really famous Zoloft commercial, which you can find on YouTube, with these bouncing blobs, and it essentially says, like, if you're depressed, you may have a chemical imbalance. Go and talk to your doctor about it. And so the idea of having low serotonin and a chemical imbalance entered the zeitgeist at the time. And so if you were unhappy, people would say, well, maybe you've got this brain disease, this chemical imbalance. And, well, what do you know? We actually have these brand new drugs that act on serotonin, and they fix these things. And so
like drinking bleach.
The American public and the public of the world, unfortunately, because our media goes everywhere, has been tricked now, after 2 to 3 decades of just hearing from drug companies and academic doctors who are kind of on the take from these companies that depression's this biological illness, and because it's biological illness, it needs to be fixed with a biological agent, like a medication.
And that's where we're going.
And for the most part, people have stopped looking at root causes, whether it's like life stresses, dietary problems, medical issues. They're just focusing on this chemical imbalance because it's easier to sell drugs that way.
Both studies found no evidence of reduced serotonin activity in people with depression compared to people without. This review suggests that the huge research effort based on the serotonin hypothesis has not produced convincing evidence of a biochemical basis to depression.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. In this review paper by Joanna Moncrieff in Nature, they looked at studies where they would measure serotonin levels in this cerebral spinal fluid via spinal tap of patients with depression. No difference in serotonin metabolites there. They would look at post-mortem studies of serotonin receptors from people who had passed away with depression. They compare them to norms. No difference there. And so, really, there's no evidence of any chemical imbalance showing up in people who are diagnosed with depression.
I'll say that again. This review suggests that the Hughes research effort based on the serotonin hypothesis has not produced convincing evidence of a biochemical basis to depression. This was a paper published in the summer of 2022 by one of the top journals in the entire field of medicine. And yet, to this day, if you suggest that depression is not related to a chemical imbalance, if you suggest that it is not biochemical, which is what that study showed, that it's not biochemical, then you will still be dogpiled for doing so.
People get really upset about this. They can be very defensive because, think about it, there's conceptually and for someone's identity, there's a big difference between I'm taking a medication because there's something wrong with my brain. I have a medical condition. I kind of have no agency over it. It was genetic. I was kind of born into it, and now I just need to take this thing. Nothing to see here. I'm just suffering from a medical problem. There's a big difference between that and I'm unhappy and I'm taking a drug to numb my symptoms.
With the red
I
dots
get why
all
that
over
can be
the
really
screen.
uncomfortable
I like
for some
that.
people to hear, because there have been occasions in the past where people would assign some kind of moral or religious attribution to that. They say, oh, you're unhappy because you've wronged God in some way, or you're not living in a morally good way. Or maybe the more modern version is you just can't hack it, you're a weak person. And so I think for a long time, people kind of, they almost went along with this white lie where it was just like, well, we...
I gotta get a pencil. Hold on. Where's my sharpener? Alright, who took my pencil sharpener? I'm just kidding, I found it. I need to check that.
We want to sidestep
How
all the
debonair.
moral and all of the moral implications of someone being unhappy, and we just want to tell them they have a medical problem because that's going to be an easier pill for them to swallow. It's not going to stigmatize them, although I hate that word because it's overused. And so we kind of go ahead with it, but you see what the problem is there. The problem is you don't get curious about the root cause. You essentially say, oh, it's just in your brain, and this drug is going to fix that, but it's not true. It's not true at all. Like you said, we haven't found any chemical imbalance. Whatever the reason that's making you unhappy is unknown. It could be life stresses, it could be medical, it could be dietary, or it could be something else, but people aren't curious about that anymore. And so, yeah, he's right. When you question that someone doesn't really have a chemical imbalance and they're just drugging themselves, it makes people incredibly uncomfortable, and they can, like he says, they can dogpile on you. But it's a harsh truth. And I guess what I want to say as well before we go on, I'm not saying that there's no genetic side to depression. Some people are born more neurotic. They are predisposed to being unhappy. But the problem is we don't even look these days. And some people aren't even curious about it themselves because they've seen so many TikTok videos and things in the news about depression just being a chemical imbalance that they overlook, their trauma or the job they hate or their dysfunctional relationship or the fact that they're medically they're unwell and out of shape. They sidestep all of that now, and they just kind of latch onto this thing. And so, yes, for some people there can be some genetic predisposition, but there's a massive amount of people
who are living unhealthy, stressful lives, where it's really obvious why they may be feeling poorly, but they don't want to look at it, and they can get really defensive about that.
To have anything approaching an honest conversation about depression and SSRIs in this country, because many of the people on these drugs will just lash out with blind rage and suggest that depression might have causes that go deeper than chemical imbalances. If you try to talk about the problem of despair, which is what depression is, try to talk about it with any depth or nuance at all, you're screamed out of the room by drug addicts who don't know they're drug addicts.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform. Describe what you want and watch it take shape. You can plan, customize, expand in any direction. From tools.
Warrior continue, no stop, just go. Pain in my lungs, but I never move slow. No quit my goal, no break, no bend. You fall underway, I push to the end. Warrior continue, I rise through strain. Turn pressure to power, turn loss into gain. No retreat, no rest, I carry the load. You stop when it hurts, I live in that mode. No rest, no pause, no slip, no break. You hit your limit, I raise the stakes. Raise your chest tight, still I go. You slow down once, I never move slow. Pain hits hard, I lock, I drive. You fight to survive, I fight to rise. No fear, no doubt, no loss, no drift. You crack under pressure, I take my grip. Step on gas, no ease, no lane. You run from hurt, I run the pain. I stay sharp, no glitch, no lag. You drop your guard, I raise my flag. No quit, no choke, no fake, no fold. You wait for relief, I carry the load. Every rep, every step, every scar I gain. Built for the fight, I get up to warrior continue, don't stop, just go. Pain in my lungs, but I never move slow. No quit my goal, no break, no bend. You fall underway, I push to the end. Warrior continues, I rise through strain. Turn pressure to power, turn loss into gain. No retreat, no rest, I carry the load. You stop when it hurts, I live in that mode. Yeah, no sleep, no slack, no trip, no ease. You beg for a break, I never say please. Grip tight, move fast, no waste, no stall. You trip on the climb, I break through walls. Heart rate high, but the mind stays low. You look for comfort, I kill that mode. No love, no chance, no guess, no pray. I move a command, you fade away. No more weight, I don't resist. You feel that pressure, I coexist. Pain in the muscle, fire in chest. You drop that set, I add more reps. No weak, no soft, no slow, no doubt. You look for edges, I block them out. You stop right there, I go again. You break in the storm, I live within. Warrior continue, no stop, just go. Pain in my lungs, but I never move slow. No quit my goal, no break, no pain. You fall underway, I push to the end. Warrior continues, I rise through strain. Turn pressure to power, turn loss into gain. No retreat, no rest, I carry the load. You stop when it hurts, I live in that mode. You look for the way I already gone, no fear, no doubt, no chain, no cage. You stuck in place, I break that stage fast, my sharp head, no slip, no crack. You lose your focus, I stay on track, no weak survive. When the step is on, you need that push, I move along, push past pain, I don't negotiate. You hesitate once I dominate, no stop, no stall, no pause, no wait. You fall right there, I elevate. You work your code, no quick, no end. You break, you drop, I rise again. Low gets heavy, I double back. You fall from pressure, I counter attack. All these years, when the
one heartbeat, one direction, built by honor, built by action. Brothers for life, through the fire, through the rain, nothing breaks this bond we made. Brothers for life, shoulder to shoulder, step by step, no surrender, no regret. Brothers for life, if the road gets hard, we push ahead. Together we rise, together we stand. Together we rise, together we stand.
Every sunrise starts to grind. One clear purpose, one strong mind. No excuses, no retreat. Every obstacle we meet, every lesson, every scar made us who we really are. Pressure came to test our name. We answered stronger every day. No distance changes what we built. No passing years erase our will. Every promise still remains written deep beyond our name. No fear,
No doubt,
we know
what we're
about.
one team,
One soul,
one mission, one goal.
brothers for life.
Through the fire, through the rain, nothing breaks this bond we made.
Brothers for life.
Shoulder to shoulder,
Step by step.
no surrender, no regret. Brothers for life, the road gets hard, we push ahead. Together we rise, together we stand. Together we stand.
Stand with me.
Fight beside me,
Never divided.
never alone.
Every promise, every mile
Every sacrifice
made us stronger. Yeah, years may pass, but nothing fades. Every memory still remains. Every victory, every fall, we survived through all.
strength was never built alone. It was forged like solid stone. Every step and every climb made this brotherhood survive.
If tomorrow calls again, we'll answer just the same. No matter where life leads,
We'll carry this name.
brothers for life.
Raise your voice, let it fly. Nothing stronger than this pride.
Brothers for life.
One heartbeat, one flame, forever united, forever the same. Brothers for life,
No distance
no time
can ever break.
these ties.
Brothers
For life, forever, side by side.
brothers.
For
The arena is empty and the lights are all dim, but I'm still on the edge, I'm still out on the limb. The others have folded, they headed for home, but I'm building a temple in the garden alone. The clock hit the limit and the whistle is blown, but I'm staying right here on this foundation stone. My knuckles are bruised and my vision is blurred, but I'm moving with power, not a single soft word. Every muscle is screaming for the mercy of rest, but I'm putting the grit to the ultimate test. I don't follow the crowd and I don't follow the trend. I'm the one who stays standing right through to the end. The silence is heavy, the air is so cold, but I'm fueled by a spirit that refuses to fold. Check the perimeter, see the ghosts of the past. I'm the only one left and I'm built to the last.
when the smoke finally settles and the shadows are gone, I'll be standing right here at the break of the dawn. No
entrance of fate. It's a mental endurance, a spiritual grind, leaving every excuse and the weakness behind. I've mastered the art of the heavy set grind with the focus of steel and the calculated mind. I don't need an audience, I don't need a cheer, I just need the objective to finally appear. The friction is burning, the pressure is high, but I'm looking the obstacles straight in the eye. I've walked through the valley, I've climbed up the peak, I found all the strength that the average seek. Every rep is a brick in the wall made of pride, with the firestorm burning and turning inside. The horizon is distant, the journey is long, but the last one remaining is the one who is strong.
When the smoke finally settles and the shadows are gone, I'll be standing right here at the break of the dawn. No retreat in the soul, no flaw in the plan. I'm the final survivor, I'm the last man. When the smoke finally settles and the shadows are gone, I'll be standing right here at the break of the dawn. No retreat in the soul, no flaw in the plan. I'm the final survivor, I'm the last man.
Now the oxygen's thin and the pulses are raw, but I'm digging for gold on the gym room floor. I've outrun the doubt and I've outrun the fear. The definition of purpose is finally clear. I'm a veteran of labor, a scholar of pain. I'm the sun cutting through all the clouds and the rain. The world is asleep while I'm claiming the crown. I'm the tower of granite that will never go down. One final motion, one final exhale. I'm the ship in the storm that refuses to fail. The legacy's written in the sweat and the crime. I've conquered the moment, I've conquered the time. So let the bell ring and let the day end. I'm the broken down wall that refuses to bend. Stand tall in the wreckage, look around if you can. There is only one person, the last man.
When the smoke finally settles and the shadows are gone, I'll be standing right here at the break of the dawn. No retreat in the soul, no flaw in the plan. I'm the final survivor, I'm the last man. When the smoke finally settles and the shadows are gone, I'll be standing right here at the break of the dawn. No retreat in the soul, no flaw in the plan. I'm the final survivor, I'm the last man.
What if that beach view they promised just got 100 times better?
This is for protection. 72 hours of it.
Babies don't ever stop. And behind them is an unstoppable Pampers 360 diaper.
Portion of
with
it
up
where
to
you see
100%
how effective they are, it lasted for 3 months. Now most people who take these medications, they take them for several years. And listen, if you're a clinical psychiatrist or even if you're someone who's taken these medications, you know they wear off in maybe 6 months, maybe 2 years, and then you need a higher dose, and then you need a higher dose. And so these are drugs that people's brains, because of homeostatic mechanisms, become dependent to over time. And so we don't even know how long people can be on these drugs for before they adapt to them, and then all of a sudden they're just sort of stuck on this thing, and it's causing side effects and it's not really helping them. I mean, that's the big secret going on here, that we're told that these drugs are safe and effective, but really it should be safe and effective for maybe the 3 months they were studied for. And when it comes to long-term use, we don't know. We have no idea what's going on. We don't know who they're going to benefit. We don't know who they're going to harm. In my line of work, I see a lot of harms, unfortunately.
Step up to the plate this summer with your Irving Rewards card. 1 and 2 fuel swipes win a fuel discount of up to 75 cents per gallon. Every swipe is a chance to win free fuel for a year. Hit a home run and win with Irving Rewards.
Turns out the government tracks a lot of data, and it's scattered all over the place. Data on prices, jobs.
It's not an overstatement to say this is one of the great medical scandals of our time.
Here, this is crazy, people. We have 16% of the people maybe taking these medications now, antidepressants, all over the world, who have been told this is a chemical imbalance, who have been told these medications are safe and effective when we have no idea how they work in the long run, when there's hundreds of thousands of people online in groups like Surviving Antidepressants, If you want to see the saddest, scariest place in the world, go there, because you'll see people who have been trying to come off these medications for years and have sustained brain damage. This is not a small group of people. This is hundreds of thousands of people there on Facebook. There's groups all over the place on Facebook, like Cymbalta hurts worse, for every single antidepressant out there, of people who cannot get off them and who've had their brains damaged by these medications. And you would have never heard about it because, like I said, the psychiatric leaders are, they're not objective about this anymore. They're kind of involved and just almost in like a cover-up in some way. It's really sad.
It is sad. I'm not
What's changing now is that finally someone in a position of authority is willing to investigate these drugs and many other drugs like them. A few days ago, the executive order of the Trump administration established something called the Make America Healthy Again Commission.
This is incredible, actually.
Or
We're so happy these guys are doing what they're doing.
That's how you pronounce it. And it'll be headed by R.P. Jr. The purpose of the commission, according to the White House, is to determine
and you're
why
not fooled
Americans
if
have
fed fear
shorter life
propaganda and
expectancies than
believe
people living in other
bullshit.
nations, as well as higher rates of chronic diseases
You
like
almost just
cancer and asthma.
naturally
And
are
part
going
of
to
this
be
effort
speaking
means
out about
assessing the
those
quote
things
prevalence of and
in whatever
threat posed
profession
by
you're in, whether
prescription of
you're
selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors,
homeless on the
antipsychotics, mood
street
stabilizers, stimulants,
in a high-rise
and weight loss drugs.
penthouse.
Last
It's
Thursday,
incredible.
President
I
Trump
mean, there's no
signed an executive order to establish the Maha Commission to study what has caused the
monetary
precipitous
value
decline
when it comes
in
to
American
these
health
things,
over the past 2 generations. So we will convene representatives of all viewpoints to study the causes for the drastic rise in chronic disease. Some of the possible factors we will investigate were formerly taboo or insufficiently scrutinized. The childhood vaccine schedule, electromagnetic radiation, glyphosate, other pesticides, ultra-processed foods, artificial food additives, SSRI and other psychiatric drugs, PFAs, PFOAs, microplastics. Nothing is going to be off limits.
It's crazy, as I was hearing that list, like vaccines, food, microplastics, electromagnetic radiation. All I may sound cynical and like I'm wearing a tin hat, but each one of these products is a massive industry behind it, whether it's like, big mobile phone.
Wow, the chat just went boom. Holy smokes, what happened? That's hard not to notice. Right, so all of those things. They're not things we can get rid of, right? The air we breathe, electronics. Right, this is known to be. Right, so what happens is when they start releasing that kind of news, and people go, oh, EMFs, and they want to get rid of all their computers and phones and don't want to. I mean, look at the years that went on, and then people going off the grid and not wanting to go near electronics because they were scared it was going to give them cancer. Remember, go back a few decades ago. Remember the Motorola phones? And they put out that news article, and the woman had a tumor that looked like a Motorola antenna. Right, so even back in those days, if you remember in the mercury stuff with the vaccines and tuna fish and leukemia, AIDS, these doctors trying to speak out about the dangers of the vaccines and the growth hormones and all this shit being pumped into the meat that they're shoving in the kids. Huh. So many people were targeted and killed by these nasty fucking goons trafficking their heroin and trying to find out who killed Kennedy. You know what? I'm not trying to dwindle it down too much, but that's just what we see. Our whole lives. Like, literally, our whole fucking lives, and we're 44 years old. I was the second gunman on the grassy knoll, alright? Can we get over it now and play ball? Nope, you guys want to do your fucking drugs and act like fucking nasty motherfucking abusive, controlling pieces of shit, as usual. Get the whip, boys, get the whip. These motherfucking monkeys need to be taught a lesson. Time to a pole. Get the electric whips. Time to a fucking pole and get the electric whips. These motherfuckers doing what they've been doing. attacking and antagonizing innocent citizens, protecting fucking pedos and drug traffickers, get the fucking pole, ring them to it, and get the electric whips, like they did to those little kids that people wanted to ignore. Killing journalists, exposing what was going on over those walls. Same fucking line and stream of journalists getting killed over places here, trying to take pictures of what was going on over some pig farm walls. Huh, directly connected to those sick motherfuckers. Anyways, hey Kennedy, you want to wake up and help us here with these kids being fucked and tortured, vaccine injured, and like actually talk about the root issues, not just promote more fear propaganda? My God, that's almost worse than the fucking Motorola antenna, if I can even say it. Motorola. Olay! Stop. I know, I gotta stop using that tone, my voice. I'm gonna go hoarse, and I may lose my voice for good. But see how that seems like, oh, we're being mean and threatening to, like, hey, Kennedy, you want to... He's doing what he's supposed to do. Right, he's presenting the news just like they want him to. It's interesting, kind of like, that 2C TV, sometimes the news are reporting. If you listen to what we had listened to before and you get the actual news, and then when you see how it's getting reported through their streams, the people that you see, the mouths it's coming out of, those are not the people that you want to be upset with. In fact, they're probably just upset with the people that you should be upset with, who are peddling them and giving them what they can say, can't say. These are the reports. This is what happened, didn't happen. These are the assignments. Right, so a lot of them have figured out things over the years, just like some of our military people when they were being sent on blind missions to go attack and bomb villages overseas somewhere because they were shown videos of children and animals being abused and they thought it was over there, but it was really here in America. They looked Chinese. They looked Middle Eastern. Yeah, it looks like it's coming from Pakistan. It looks like India. No, it's right here in America, boys. You want to turn around that plane? I swear to God, if you fucking attack another innocent village for what these fucking punks are doing here, we're going to lose our shit. And when we lose our shit, trust me, there's a lot of me's, and when we lose our shit, innocent people die. It happens. I know, you try to prevent it, and you're trying to tell them. And then when they want to keep putting the blame on the people trying to expose it. Look at him get angry. It's cute, huh? Yeah, hopefully people are waking up to what we've been talking about and saying. And the proper authorities here in Augusta, Maine do what they're supposed to do to help those children. And the news people, Central Maine news people, we're very concerned about your safety. You might want to amp up your security. Are they safe? Have they been vetted? Do they have violent tendencies? Who don't even care anymore? Yeah, I mean, you can free yourselves from the wonder and worry and fear by speaking the truth. The concerns with the vaccines. Can you even say the word vaccine, news people? I mean, unless it's promoting it, be sure to get your vaccines. Flu shots for free over here. You fucking sick motherfucking nasty people. How dare you ignore this shit for years and fucking sit there like you're special and you worked hard to get your job, you nasty fucking cunts. People really hate you. A lot of us really hate you. Nothing personal, just in general, across the board. Fox, a lot of news people, journalists, CNN. There's so many good people. See how there's a lot of good ones? And we can just see they're unaware. And we see that look sometimes. Or the pauses where they know something's off. You're like, haha, awareness. There it is. They don't know, but they know that that's fucked. Stupid. You know? Retarded. Right? So when you see that, you're like, okay, they have a chance. Keep pushing. Over the borderline. Feels like I'm going to lose my mind. You just keep on pushing my love over the borderline. Keep pushing. Keep pushing. Push it. Push it real good. Yeah, no, we're really concerned about your safety. Because a lot of people around the world, a lot of the me's, yeah, they're getting to that breaking point. And where this has gone on for so long and the ignorance, they were at that breaking point before 2017. Okay? And what they've been doing to innocent citizens is so wrong and fucked up. And you know it. And we know the animal activists and sick fucking nasty pieces of shit that you're connected to. Yeah, hey, Dr. Baker, Winthrop Family Practice, why the fuck would you jab up my child like that? Why the fuck would you do that? And look at the fucking goons that had our children in their hands when you got away with it. You fucking sick fucks are done. Do you understand me? I'd pack up your shit and fucking go. With the shit you people have done to our children and others, you need to pack up and go. You know who we're talking to, you sick, nasty, fucking abusive, fraudulent, sick, fucking entitled citizens, American white citizens. I'm telling you right now, the sickest fucking people involved with these cases are always white fucking punk ass bitches and monkeys. Always, in my experience. So I suggest you people wake the fuck up. Yeah, and I know, and they're always being fucked with by who? Peddled along and targeted. That's why we say they're licking each other's assholes and cutting each other's throats from the fucking Bible Belt to Antarctica. Do you understand me? All right, much love, health, and peace to you all. In the meantime, between time, we really hope you do the right thing. And you can do that by speaking up about what we're talking about with the concerns with vaccines and SSRIs and how these fucking punks got away with abusing our children for years right under this roof and others, right in the wide open fucking spaces. It's so fucking sick and disturbing what you're allowing them to do to our children right in front of our fucking faces. I'd wake the fuck up if I were you, buddy. You know who we're talking to. Kennedy, you want to tell these fucking goons who are healing from their years of heroin use and other drugs to wake the fuck up and stop protecting these pedos? That'd be nice. If you want to get real. You see the sick, nasty people they're surrounded by,
like Monsanto
and the deaths that have occurred around them, right?
Chemical companies,
Very suspicious.
plastics, that's petrochemicals, vaccines,
wake up,
SSRIs. We're talking about the pharmaceutical industry.
Hey,
Isn't
good
it
morning,
interesting
what's up?
that every time there's a big organization
passerbys,
with huge commercial interest behind something that's really controversial, and if you ever say anything about it, you get attacked essentially as being as not trusting the science. You know that we should trust these institutions that run these studies that always paint their products in the best possible light, and so they attack people. And I think that's just the playbook. And Matt's totally right, and RFK Jr. is totally right that we need to be looking at what have been the consequences of letting the pharmaceutical industry just run unchecked and just promote the heck out of these medications when there's essentially a psychiatric organization who aren't objective about the medications because they're more advocates for them because they're trying to increase the prestige of their profession and they don't want to talk about it. I do think we need to look at what's happened to the American people because of this, and gosh, when they start looking at foster homes or maybe senior living homes, they're going to be shocked because the patients there, they're riddled with antipsychotics. They're essentially just like locked away and they're drugged into oblivion because they're having behavioral problems and essentially no one has any time to deal with them and they don't want to. And they're going to find some really, really bad things when they look at how these drugs are being used at the moment.
Now, as you heard, RFK's commission is going to be focused on gathering data. You know, they're not banning anything outright. They're not punishing doctors for prescribing.
This is crazy. I've seen like psychos on the Facebook groups that I'm a part of. They're just like, oh my god, RFK Jr. is banning antidepressants. Like, my patients are now stockpiling them. People, he's not banning antidepressants. He has acknowledged that for some people they're useful.